My name is Colin Strickland. I'm the Anaerobic Digester Manager for Amana Farms. Today I'm going to take on a little virtual tour of the Amana Farms digester. We are currently down here in our monoslope. This building has 10 pens, can hold up to 120 head of cattle when it's at full capacity. So you can see here some of the things that are fed, the cattle get fed to every day. You see some hay in there, some corn, there's some corn silage, and a couple other products that are in there as well too. So the feedstocks for those stay pretty consistent throughout the year, which means the consistency of the manure, the nutrients in the manure are going to stay fairly consistent as well too. The unique thing about this building is the cattle are on rubber slats, and manure falls through the rubber slats into an alleyway. And then from there it gets scraped into a pit. From that pit it goes on to the digester. So I'm currently standing on top of a 20-foot manure pit. This manure all comes from the monoslope, and now all the manure gets funneled into this pit. So it's currently in the liquid stage right now. It's very pumpable for us as well too. So down here is a piston pump. This pump is used to pump the liquid manure from the monoslope pit all the way up underground into the digester. So in this building is our tank building. We have 8 tanks that can hold approximately 120,000 gallons of off-site waste at one time. These are all liquid products that get stored here in these tanks. There's just quite a few varieties of places where we get all of our industrial waste from. Co-digestion is our way of mixing all of our solids and all of our liquids together in one big mix pit that gets pumped into our digester. This is our dry pad here at the digester. So everything here on this dry pad will eventually get put into the digester. So all of this stuff here, this black material, brown material, this is all of our manure from our other feedlot that we have that we'll show you here after a bit. We also get some other dry products as well too. This is our second feedlot here at the Amana Farms. Our first feedlot that we showed you, everything was in liquid manure form for the manure. Up here, it's all dry matter, or in the dry form of manure. Between our two feedlots, we can hold about 4,000 head of cattle. Up here, there's currently about 3,600 head or so approximately between the pens up here and the outside pens. Bedding used for the cattle on this concrete is just corn stover bales. So they'll put a few bales down every week to build up a good bed pack, a good soft base for the cattle to bed on. And then the manure and the corn stover is all mixed together. And then from there it's all scraped up and it's hauled down to the digester where it's used to produce biogas. So every dry product that we get is going to come onto this pad here. And then over here to my left, we have a big mix pit. Every morning in this mix pit, we add our manure, our other dry off-site products, and as well as our other liquid off-site products as well too. I'm currently standing on top of our anaerobic digester. Anaerobic digestion is the process of microbacteria breaking down organic matter without the use of oxygen. And from that process, they create 2 byproducts. Digestate, which is also called fertilizer, which is contained of liquid and solids, and also biogas. That biogas is contained of about 55 to 60% of methane gas that is used to we convert into electricity. So also in that biogas, there's other gases such as carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide and ammonia and etc. With the methane gas being around 55 to 60%, all we have to do is cool that gas down, pull the humidity and the moisture out of that gas, and then we can burn it, as they call it, dirty, or in our engines to convert it into electricity. The digester is approximately 80 feet wide by almost 300 feet long. It's 18 feet deep, so the numbers of that equal about 1.69 million gallons is what I'm standing on top of currently right now. That's about the amount of fluid or liquid it would take to fill up 3 Olympic-sized swimming pools. So here is a scale model of our digester, of a plug flow digester. So looking at the inside of the digester, this is the acid chamber over here, and then all of the product that gets pumped in the digester gets pumped on the south side of our digester here. This digester is in a U shape, so all of the product, all the digestate inside the digester just gets funneled around the U shape here. So it gets put in on the right side, comes all the way down around the wall at the end, and then back here to the other end of the digester, where here the effluent pit, it gets pumped out into the lagoon. The one really neat thing about our facility is we're combined heat and power, meaning we capture the heat from the engines while producing electricity from the engines. So that's not shown on this display model, but along both sides of the digester on this concrete wall down the center, there's copper water lines that are protected from material inside the digester, but water flows through there. So as the engines are running pretty hot, we run water through the engines that gets pumped out into the digester, and it keeps the digester around 99 to 101 degrees Fahrenheit, which is the actual temperature of a cattle's stomach. Throughout the day, we have mixers installed, or agitators, that help keep the solids broken up in the digester. So you can see we have 8 of them installed, 4 on each side of the digester that run on timer, that just help keep things mixed up and moving in the digester. Currently behind me, you see this black pipe off in kind of the distance. That's where all of the biogas gets pushed into the engine room. So we don't have an actual tank or a chamber where all this biogas is stored. It's stored in about an 18-inch column at the top of the digester, because that gas rises to the top and then it just gets pulled into the engine room. Behind me here is our effluent pump. This is the only spot in the digester where our solids and our liquid will get pumped out of the digester. So from here, there's a rear wall we call it, where the gas stays trapped inside the digester, but the solids and the liquid get forced underneath the rear wall and flows into a pit. And from that pit, this pump will pump it out to the lagoon. So behind me is a 19 million gallon lagoon where it holds all of our waste, our digestate from the digester. So in this lagoon, it's all of this corn stover, it could be manure, and all of our other off-site waste products that we get into the digester. Behind me, you can see the raft down there. That's where the pontoon-style pump will sit stationary, hooked up to hoses that pump from the lagoon into a 10-mile underground pipeline running from here at West Amana all the way north of the Iowa River down to East Amana. The really nice thing about our setup is we have a lot of storage. We preach storage to anyone who's looking and being interested in installing an anaerobic digester in the lagoon. We need the storage on the ground, or on the land, the row crops, to be able to hold all of this waste. In the spring and the fall time, everything from the lagoon gets pumped down and gets land applied onto our crop fields. It gets pumped to ports like this in the field. This port is currently closed right now since we're in the growing season for our crops and we're not injecting fertilizer onto the ground. But right in this area is where a booster pump would sit with hoses hooked up to it. So every so often, they'd have to put a booster pump wherever, depending on where they're pumping it into which field. From the ports, or from the pump, there would be an umbilical cord line basically going from the pump running to the injector system on the tractor. That's used it runs through the field. It's a pretty thick hose that runs through the injector system on the field, into the ejector system that gets pumped into the ground. Here at the digester, we have 4 gen sets. There are 4 Guas core gen sets. They're rated at 710 kilowatts, so the maximum output when they're running at full speed is 710 kilowatts. On average, we probably put on the grid about 1.2 to 1.4 megawatts per hour. So that's around 28 to 30 megawatts per day we put onto the grid. As biogas comes into the engine room from the digester, that biogas is using to fuel the engines. All the electricity generated from the gen sets are used to power everything here at the digester and at the feedlots up here at the farm, but then everything else is sold to the Amana Society Service Company. All the electricity is used to power the Amana Colonies, so there's 7 villages. Most of the time, all of our electricity is used by the colonies, but they're also have to bring in power from the outside grid to supplement what we can't provide to the colonies. All the electricity is used by the citizens of the Amana Colonies, all homes, businesses, and anything else in the colonies. So with that, I guess this concludes our virtual tour of the Amana Farms digester, and we can get in contact if you'd like your own personal tour as well too.